Most keepers spend a fortune on powders and supplements to get their birds through a heat wave, while the most powerful gut tonic for a chicken is growing for free in the weeds along your fence. This bubbling green jar looks like something you'd throw out, but to your flock in July, it's the difference between eating and sulking in the shade. Today, I'm showing you exactly what goes in the jar and the one step that turns pulled weeds into a living probiotic. If you look closely at this glass right now, you can see tiny pockets of carbon dioxide rising through the murky liquid, pushing bits of crushed leaf up to the surface before they drop back down. It looks chaotic, almost alive, because it is. There is a hidden biological engine running inside this container, and understanding how to steer it is the key to dropping your feed costs when the thermometer spikes. But you have to be careful, because there is one specific mistake people make during the initial setup that turns this beneficial tonic into a rancid, foul-smelling mess that can ruin your flock's digestion. I will break down exactly how to avoid that failure later on. For now, look at your birds. If they are hiding under the coop, wings held out from their bodies, and ignoring their expensive crumble, you are looking at a system failure that starts from the inside out. When the ambient temperature hits 90 degrees Fahrenheit, a chicken stops thinking about production and enters survival mode. You might think your birds are just being lazy when they crowd into the dust under the elderberry bushes, but their bodies are undergoing a severe physiological shift. Digestion is a highly exothermic process. When a chicken processes dry grain, its internal metabolic furnace kicks into overdrive, creating deep heat inside the core. In the dead of winter, that internal fire keeps them alive. In July, it threatens to cook them from the inside. To prevent this, the bird instinctively backs off its feed intake by 15% or more. They are not refusing to eat because they are stubborn. They are refusing to eat because their survival instincts are overriding their appetite. Have you ever looked at your girls standing panting with their mouths wide open, looking at a full feeder of high-quality mash, and felt completely helpless? I used to. I would go out to the coop and see a layer of fine dust settling over the feed troughs, a clear sign that the birds had barely touched their rations all day. The natural reaction for many keepers is to run to the farm supply store and buy synthetic electrolyte powders, water additives, or expensive vitamin drops. You drop $15 on a plastic pouch, stir it into their waterer, and hope for a miracle. But you are treating the symptom rather than addressing the core mechanical breakdown inside the bird. When a chicken cuts its feed consumption, its entire digestive tract slows down. The lack of consistent fiber and nutrients moving through the gizzard causes the gut motility to stagnate. The beneficial microbes that live inside the bird's digestive system begin to starve, allowing opportunistic pathogenic bacteria to take hold. This leads to a mild systemic inflammation of the intestinal lining. Even if the bird does take a few bites of dry feed during the cooler twilight hours, its damaged gut cannot efficiently absorb the nutrients. This is why you see a sudden drop in eggshell quality and overall egg size during a heat wave. The issue is multifactorial, driven by heat stress, hormonal shifts, and reduced nutrient absorption, meaning you cannot fix it by simply dumping more dry feed into the coop or throwing money at synthetic fixes. You need a way to restart the gut, cool down the bird's internal furnace, and make the food highly attractive even when the air is thick and oppressive. That is where our bubbling green jar comes into play, utilizing a low-cost biochemical process to transform simple yard waste into an active digestive aid. To solve a mechanical bottleneck in the coop, we turn to simple biological engineering. The bubbling mass inside this jar is the result of lactic acid fermentation, a natural anaerobic process driven by wild bacteria that already live on the surface of every plant in your yard. When you submerge these plants in an oxygen-deprived environment, the beneficial lactobacillus species take over. They consume the simple sugars present in the plant matter and convert them into lactic acid. This shifts the environment inside the container, dropping the pH down to a highly acidic 4.5 within a few days. This low pH acts as a natural shield, killing off harmful pathogens like Salmonella and E. coli while allowing the beneficial bacteria to thrive. The real magic happens in how this process alters the structure of the material itself. The bacteria are essentially pre-digesting the contents of the jar. They break down tough, complex plant cell walls and neutralize anti-nutrients that would otherwise hinder digestion. When a chicken consumes this fermented mixture, its body does not have to work nearly as hard to break down the material. The metabolic heat generated by digestion drops significantly, allowing the bird to stay cooler internally. Furthermore, the high concentration of organic acids and live enzymes stimulates the bird's gizzard, increasing the secretion of natural digestive fluids and restoring healthy gut motility. Let us be entirely honest about what this jar can and cannot do. This is a powerful probiotic tonic and an excellent palatability booster, but it is absolutely not a total replacement for a balanced commercial feed. It does not possess a magical abundance of crude protein that can offset a cheap, low-quality diet, nor is it a singular vitamin miracle that fixes poor husbandry. What it does is optimize the feed you're already buying, ensuring that every ounce of nutrition passing through the flock is completely utilized rather than wasted in the droppings. It changes the physical state of the food from a dry, unappealing powder into a moist, cool, highly fragrant ration that triggers a strong feeding response. There is a very specific visual cue on the surface of the liquid that tells you the fermentation has hit its peak efficiency and is perfectly safe for consumption, which we will observe as we look directly at how to assemble the contents. To build this system, you do not need an expensive laboratory setup or imported ingredients. You need a clean, wide-mouth glass jar that holds at least half a gallon of liquid, a handful of specific common weeds from your fence line, and a small catalyst. The primary fuel for this jar consists of fresh, stinging nettle, common dandelion leaves, and wild lamb's quarters, sometimes called goosefoot or wild spinach. These specific plants are excellent because they are deep-rooted accumulators, pulling up minerals from deep in the subsoil that standard pasture grasses cannot reach. Gather enough of these greens to fill your jar about 2/3 of the way full. You want to chop them coarsely with a clean knife to rupture the cell walls and expose the internal sugars to the wild bacteria. Once your chopped greens are packed loosely into the glass, you need to add a small starch catalyst to accelerate the fermentation process. I use exactly 1 cup of standard scratch grain or the regular whole grain feed mix I give to the flock. This provides a steady supply of complex carbohydrates for the lactobacillus to feed on over the coming days. Next, pour unchlorinated water over the entire mixture. If you use standard municipal tap water containing heavy chlorine, you will kill the very bacteria you're trying to cultivate, halting the process before it even begins. Fill the container until the water level sits roughly 2 inches below the rim. This empty zone is critical because as the bacteria produce gas, the entire volume of green mass will expand and lift upward. Last July, I made the mistake of packing a large jar completely tight to the top, leaving less than half an inch of headspace before screwing a lid down firmly. By the afternoon of the 3rd day, the pressure had built up so intensely that the glass fractured, sending a wave of sticky fermenting green slime all over my workshop shelves. It was a complete waste of material and a massive mess to clean. To avoid this, always leave that 2-inch safety buffer and cover the jar loosely with a breathable cloth or a mason jar lid that is only threaded halfway down, allowing the carbon dioxide to escape freely. Let the jar sit out of direct sunlight in a space that stays between 70 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Under these conditions, the fermentation takes between 3 to 5 days to reach completion. You will know it is ready when you smell a distinct, clean, sharp aroma that mimics sourdough bread dough or a traditional fermenting pickle, accompanied by a thick layer of fine white bubbles resting on the surface of the green liquid. The ultimate validation of any system happens inside the run when you present the final product to the flock. To truly understand the impact of this green jar, I conducted a simple side-by-side observation in my own yard during the peak of an August heat wave when the afternoon air felt like a brick wall. In one corner of the run, I left a standard feeder filled with dry, high-quality commercial pellets. In the opposite corner, I placed a shallow rubber trough containing a fresh batch of their morning feed ration, thoroughly mixed with the bubbling liquid and green plant matter from our jar. The contrast in the birds' behavior was immediate and unmistakable. The hens completely ignored the dry feeder, walking right past it without a second glance. They gathered around the wet trough, pushing past each other to get to the fermented mass. I watched them completely empty the trough in less than 15 minutes, leaving the rubber surface scraped clean. The sound was distinct, a rapid pattern of active pecking and rhythmic clicks against the bottom of the basin, completely different from the slow, unenthusiastic sorting they do with dry feed. When they finished, their beaks were stained a vibrant dark green color, and they immediately walked over to the shade to rest. looking visibly content rather than stressed and restless. When you observe this level of palatability, you realize how much feed is typically wasted during the summer months. Dry feed often gets kicked into the bedding or ignored until it absorbs ambient moisture and spoils in the tray. By introducing the fermented green liquid, you transform the texture and the temperature of the meal. The feed becomes heavy, wet, and cool, making it physically easy for the birds to consume without kicking up dust or exerting unnecessary energy. They are getting hydrated and fed simultaneously, while receiving a massive dose of active enzymes that prepare their stomachs for efficient digestion. However, before you run out to your yard to harvest every green leaf in sight, you must establish strict boundary lines for safety because managing live bacterial cultures requires absolute precision. Operating a home fermentation system means you are managing a living biological culture, and you must understand how to separate a successful batch from a dangerous failure. The foundational rule of this entire process is maintaining strict anaerobic conditions beneath the waterline. The beneficial lactobacillus bacteria thrive without oxygen, while harmful molds and putrefactive bacteria require oxygen to colonize. If your plant matter floats up above the surface of the water and stays exposed to the open air for multiple days, it will grow a fuzzy, colorful layer of mold that can range from gray to black or bright blue. If you ever open a jar and see fuzzy dimensional mold growing across the top, or if you're hit with a foul, putrid odor resembling sewage or rotting meat, do not hesitate. Throw the entire batch directly onto the compost pile far away from your coop. Never attempt to scrape the bad layer off or feed the liquid underneath to your chickens. High-quality fermentation always smells clean, sharp, and intensely sour, never like decay. I once ignored a small patch of dark gray fuzz growing on a piece of floating nettle leaf, thinking the high acidity of the liquid underneath would neutralize any danger. I stirred the mold back into the jar and mixed it into the morning feed ration. Within 24 hours, I had 3 lethargic hens standing in the corner of the run with completely stagnant, waterlogged crops, showing classic signs of sour crop caused by the introduction of fungal pathogens. I had to isolate the birds and administer specific flushes to clear their systems, an exhausting process that could have been completely avoided if I had simply discarded the compromised batch. To prevent this, you can use a small, clean stone or a glass fermentation weight to keep the green mass fully submerged beneath the surface of the liquid at all times. When it comes to feeding this tonic to your flock, discipline is mandatory. This fermented green mass is a supplement, not the primary meal. It should never make up more than 15 to 20% of the flock's total daily dry matter intake. The digestive system of a chicken is optimized for processing solid matter, and if you overload them with too much highly acidic, wet material, you can disrupt the natural pH balance of their gizzard, leading to chronic watery droppings and poor nutrient retention. Treat this jar as a concentrated tool to enhance their standard routine, applying it carefully so it integrates smoothly into your weekly management schedule without requiring hours of extra labor. Integrating this green jar into your regular homestead management does not require hours of daily maintenance if you set up a functional, rolling rotation. To keep a steady supply of this digestive tonic available throughout the hottest months of the summer, you need to operate a 2-jar system. I use 2 identical half-gallon glass jars labeled for identification. On Sunday morning, while I'm doing my standard coop chores, I take 5 minutes to harvest a fresh bundle of nettles and dandelions, chop them down, add the grain catalyst, fill the first jar with unchlorinated water, and set it on the shelf to ferment. This batch will cook under the action of the bacteria all through the early part of the week. By Wednesday morning, the second jar, which was started earlier in the previous week, is fully ripe, bubbling, and ready for deployment. I strain the liquid out directly into a dedicated mixing bucket, combining it with their standard daily ration until the feed reaches the consistency of thick, crumbly oatmeal. I scatter the spent fermented greens right into their run for them to pick through, which keeps them occupied and active during the cooler morning hours. I then immediately wash that empty jar with hot water, refill it with fresh weeds from the garden perimeter, and place it back on the shelf, creating an unbroken cycle of production that ensures your birds never experience a gap in their probiotic support. This simple liquid protocol works in perfect harmony with the comprehensive zero-cost feed infrastructure I've walked through in earlier videos. In that complete yard sourcing model, I layered together 3 methods kitchen waste fermentation to handle household leftovers, managed pasture rotations to give the birds access to fresh forage, and a simple black soldier fly larvae reactor to harvest high-protein grubs from organic waste. Today's bubbling green jar is not an independent replacement for those methods. Instead, it serves as the liquid, highly active probiotic layer that sits right on top of that entire foundation. It provides the fluid enzymatic pathway that helps the birds process the heavy proteins from the larvae and the diverse fibers from the kitchen scraps with maximum efficiency, wrapping the entire ecosystem together. Your weekend homework for this week is straightforward and requires zero financial investment. Walk out to your property line this Saturday morning, locate one patch of overgrown weeds along your fence that you would normally cut down or pull out, chop up enough of it to fill a single clean glass jar, and start your very first batch of this summer tonic. Look closely at the borders of your property right now along the base of your garden beds or right against the wire of your chicken run. What specific weed is taking over that space today that you have been pulling out, dragging away, and throwing into the trash, instead of dropping it into a jar to cut your summer feed bill?